We're pleased to welcome two very good friends of the show, Brendan Gill, Democratic strategist, Essex County freeholder, and principal in the BGill group. And also Mike DuHaime, Republican strategist, partner at Mercury. Good to see you, gentlemen.
Thanks, Steve.
Want to talk a little politics?
Sure.
Okay, we're in the fall of 2018. Are people engaged in this so-called midterm election with the U.S. Senate race, Bob Menendez, Bob Hugin, and a bunch of congressional races? Are people saying, hey, I'm in?
I got to tell you, Steve, from the Democratic side of the aisle, I've never seen this much engagement in a midterm election year. I've been involved in campaigns up and down this state over the last 20 years. Happened to also participate, in local party activity. I have never had more people raising their hand to volunteer, to canvass, to phone bank, to plug in. So there is a lot of engagement.
See energy. What do you see, Mike?
There's a lot of energy out there.
Yeah, I think one way you engage intensity and energy is through the number of votes, the sheer number of votes that are cast. And looking at primaries is a bit of a harbinger. And if you look at what happened in New York, the turnout in New York just a few days ago, last week.
The Cuomo primary?
Cuomo primary was double what it was 4 years ago. If you look at the New Jersey primary this year, Democrats had a very high turnout. And it's something that people overlooked in the 2016 presidential election. There was far more intensity on the Republican side in the primaries. There was so much focus on Donald Trump, but Hillary Clinton was getting far fewer votes than Barack Obama when he won the primary. So there is intensity on this side, on the Democrat side. I think you have to, if you're a Republican, you have to see that and acknowledge it and obviously figure out a way to fight through it. But that intensity is there.
I would agree with Mike on that point too, Steve. And also one even statistic from the gubernatorial election last year in the state, in the Democratic primary, there were more votes. Governor Murphy at that time, candidate Murphy at that time.
I think you did. You run that campaign?
I did run that
I'm
campaign.
joking. We know you ran the campaign. Go ahead.
That's okay. Well, got to get it while you can.
Yeah,
exactly.
I
was going to say we received under some brilliant leadership. We received more. Ambassador Murphy at the time received more votes, just raw votes, than were cast in total in the Republican primary. So you can, I agree with Mike, you can sometimes see the intensity on either side by looking at primary numbers. And I could tell you anecdotally, just being out there in the field quite a bit, there is some real intensity out there.
So, Mike, let me ask you, how much of this race, the U.S. Senate race between Menendez and Hugin, how much of several congressional races, by the way, I think at 23 or 24 seats, the Democrats have to turn around the House.
They have to win 25, they'll have a majority.
You have to win 25 seats in the lower house for the Democrats to have control of the lower house, which could have all kinds of implications. Let's leave impeachment discussions off the table. How much of this U.S. Senate race in New Jersey and the congressional races are influenced by, let's just simply say, President Donald Trump?
They're very much impacted. Historically, the first midterm of president in power, their first time after 2 years, historically is bad for the party in power. George W. Bush being an exception, the year after September 11th being an exception where Republicans picked up seats. But if you look even at President Obama's numbers, Republicans picked up 63 seats in the House in 2010. 63. And his numbers, for as much as we look at Donald Trump and I think in this part of the country as very unpopular, his numbers are actually nationally not that different than President Obama's were at this time in his reel. So 63 seats are what happened in 2010. And if you look back, even Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, Bill Clinton, obviously 1994 was a Republican revolution. There is this pushback. So it's a factor. People are looking at it as a factor right now and whether or not they want to check him. And that's why these individual races then will take some shape. But certainly the backdrop is one that is traditionally favorable or typically favorable historically to the party that's actually out of power. Right. And I think you're seeing that, and Republicans are going to have to fight against that.
It's right there, Brendan. Steve Adubato here with Brendan Gill and Mike DuHaime. By the way, if you want to find out more about the congressional races, we have U.S. Senator Bob Menendez and his Republican challenger, Bob Hugin. It's a half-hour special with the two of them. You want to check out the congressional candidates? Check out my colleague, Michael Aaron, who does a better job than anyone interviewing those candidates on his program, On the Record. Check Michael out there. You were going to say?
I was going to say, Steve, too, that I think the other thing that you're seeing from 2016 to your original question about what is the Trump is it the Trump factor that's causing that engagement? And I would say absolutely. What I've seen in a state, again, in New Jersey at least, that there were many people who, at least in the Democratic base, who voted but didn't do much more than vote. And I can't tell you how many people are out there saying that they need to do more. So they're participating actively in these congressional campaigns in a way that they haven't in the past. What's the result of that? You see Democratic congressional candidates competing in districts here in New Jersey that we have never competed in before. So there absolutely is a huge impact on the president. I don't I don't want to say I agree with Mike though in terms of the challenge for a sitting president in the midterm elections.
You think this is different?
I agree, but I think there's something different going on out there right now. So I think it's a combination of factors. It's a combination of the president, his style, the day-to-day news that's coming out of Washington, and also this idea that people who were surprised by that result, again, I'm talking really more specifically to New Jersey, not nationally, but many people within New Jersey, I think, across the board, were surprised that he won, and they decided and have decided that they need to be more a part of this process.
And is this the time they show that?
And this is the time they show it.
Mike, how challenging is it? Forget about policy for a second. Even with one policy in New Jersey that matters, and we've spoken to several. Well, Steve Sweeney, the president of the Senate, will be here. Other members of the legislature, members of Congress, will talk about the impact of the SALT deduction, the state and local tax deduction, the cap on $10,000 the federal government has put on New Jerseyans everyone across the nation on your state and local taxes. By the way, that matter?
It matters in New Jersey. I mean, disproportionately, there are 4 states that ended up really being hurt by that, New Jersey being one of the biggest ones.
California, New York?
And Maryland being the 4th, along with New Jersey. So there was, yes, I think, but there is the counterbalance of that is that the economy is going very well. Now,
it really is.
Now, if the president could speak just about that and not about a myriad of other things, he hasn't shown the ability to do that at this point. But I think if you could focus just on that, Republicans would be very happy, and they would be able to say, we're putting conservatives on the Supreme Court, we are getting tax cuts, the economy is going in a good direction. So many of those other indicators, the many people who voted for the president should be happy with, but there are so many distractions out there that we're not talking about the economy. Normally, we would be talking about the economy be a good thing, and it would really be a pushback against that historical norm that I talked about, but it's not a focus.
That's Mike DuHaime. This is Brendan Gill. I'm Steve Adubato. Brendan, I'm going to ask you guys both this. Don, is it the Trump party, or is it still the quote-unquote Republican Party?
I think it's both at this point. I think Donald Trump is the leader of the party, whether everybody in the party likes it or not. He is the president of the United States, and with that, that defines the party to most people. It defines the party certainly to the opposition party and to independents.
Is it challenging for you,
And within
Mike?
the Republican Party, it is a challenge.
As a very middle-of-the-road Republican who's dealt with all kinds of people, was a key leader, advisor to Governor Christie, worked across the aisle. Is Trump hard to have him be the leader of this party? It's
difficult because there are certain parts where the party, where I and others, I mean, you never agree with anybody 100% of the time, right? But there are certain parts, certainly in New Jersey, where we're as diverse as we are, and some of the issues that come up that have racial overtones, ethnic overtones,
or that
we're very
3,000
uncomfortable
people really
with
didn't die in Puerto Rico was a Democrat.
Yeah, those are very difficult. I think the hard part for a lot of Republicans is there are some policies we agree with, and the style and some of the rhetoric is something that we find intolerable.
Got it. Well, Brendan, how about the Democrats? I'm curious. You've got Democratic socialists, folks very far to the left, who are winning in certain primaries. You've got other mainstream, let's just say you got mainstream Democrats, and you have Steve Sweeney, the president of the Senate, coming here in just a little bit. How fractured is the Democratic Party these days, and which party are you a part of?
So let me take
that big?
Yeah, it's a big district, a big state.
We say Republican Party, we say Big Ten, small door.
Yeah,
small doors, good one. What do you got, Brendan Gill?
Then it's not good for me either way. Then.
What do you got?
So very quickly, it's not a. We are in an environment that I would say the word is progressive, not just socialist, but progressive. The politics right now within the party are definitely center-left, but that's because those are mainstream politics, meaning that what you saw going on in New York, what you saw going on in other congressional districts are people who ran on platforms that are about mainstream ideas.
The Bernie Sanders stuff?
Meaning health care for all, meaning a livable wage. I would even argue that although there's indicators that unemployment is down, wages are stagnant, the idea that this economy is doing really, really well, it's one of the reasons that you're not able to run on it because it's really not true out there for a lot of people. So this idea right now within the party that there's a tug of war between maybe left and center politics, clearly what we're seeing is that the base of our party, which I would say is the mainstream in our party, wants to talk about those issues. Those issues are important, and they are mainstream,
healthcare?
and they are mainstream issues. Whether you're talking about healthcare, whether you're talking about the environment, whether you're talking about education, these are not radical ideas.
You won't see this manifest itself for a while because Republican, we lived through this in 2010. It was probably more extreme than what's happening in the Democrat Party, but you saw more moderate Republicans losing to more far-right conservative Republicans, and then doing poorly in general elections. So in the long term, the definition of the party, what you're seeing now are liberal Democrats, not like conservative, liberal Democrats in New York, in Massachusetts, losing congressional primaries. So the face of the Democrat Party, the ideology of the Democrat Party is going to be very different in 2 years. And so we'll see. There's going to be a fight, just like there's been a fight on the Republican side. But there's a constant evolution in both parties.
I would agree with that.
I got a minute left.
I agree with that. I'm not sure that what you're seeing right now within the Democratic Party is going to be as severe as what we saw in 2010 in the Republican Party based on the numbers of people who will be elected this November. I don't think you're going to see what you saw with the Tea Party in 2010 happen in the Democratic Party in 2018.
Guys, a few seconds left. Look at this civil, respectful, collegial discussion between a Republican, Mike DuHaime, and a Democrat, Brendan Gill. Why is this not taking place across the country, and why is there so much polarization, divisiveness, and hey, we can't talk? 30 seconds,
The
go.
media has changed tremendously now. You can self-select what you do.
No, it's us, Mike.
It's you. It's your fault. No, it's allowed people. It's allowed people to self-select. So if you're a Republican, you can get your news from Breitbart. You can listen to Hannity and Rush in the car, and then watch Fox News when you get home. Same with a Democrat. You can watch MSNBC. You have to have actual discourse with real live human
Brendan,
beings.
what do you got? A few seconds.
I agree, and I would say finally that it's okay to be passionate. We have to accept that it's okay to be passionate about issues.
Not nasty and name-calling, and we can't talk.
But right, but that we can agree to disagree and work towards common purpose. That's why I'm involved. I still believe that, and we can still get there.
Brendan Gill, Mike DuHaime, I'm Steve Adubato. Just listening to these guys. Check you out on the State of Affairs next time. Thank you, gentlemen. See you next time.
Thank you.
That was good.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Agnes Veris NJTV studio at 2 Gateway. Funding has been provided by the New Jersey Education Association, the Turrell Fund, supporting Right from the Start NJ, the Northward Center, New Jersey Sharing Network, Summit Medical Group, Delta Dental of New Jersey, and by Keystone Mountain Lakes Regional Council of Carpenters. Your future is in our building.